Good evening, friends. Back on a Saturday evening with our season 1 finale. Today is episode 6 and we are back with another power packed webinar with a whole bunch of, as I always have coined this new term, large hearted entrepreneurs. These entrepreneurs will make sure that you have a really value generating session today. So let me start by introducing myself. I am Gaurav Agarwal, son of my mentor, husband to a superwoman and a Bhagavad Gita follower. I am a Zavarian and a chartered accountant by academics and an HR by default. So I am again an entrepreneur by heart, the founder of SMVA Consultants and co-founders Planet on a single tunnel focus and a mission to empower 1 lakh plus candidates through our 100 franchises by 2021. I hope today's session and the season 1 finale is again really value generating, and I love receiving the WhatsApp messages and your comments on the feedback, how you liked the session, etc. So let me start by sharing my screen and introducing the great entrepreneurs today. So today's session wherein we will discuss about the importance of having a co-founder and essentially how easy it is to find one. Now to discuss and in details to actually have that kind of detailed understanding, we have our panelists starting with Ashwin Srivastava ji. So we took a whole bunch of time to actually collate his summary because the kind of experience that he is having was huge, my friends. So let me start by introducing him, a co-founder of Greater Management Institute, advisor at Atal Innovation Mission and ID Ventures, chief of growth of Cancer Rounds and director of Restate Solutions, Build Traders, Infernia, Curio, and also an IIT Bombay alumni. Welcome Ashwin Srivastava ji to the panel. Next in the line is Mr. Sovan Panda. He is the CEO and founder himself of Mangosteen Holdings and the co-founder of 10 Crore Club. So, the word itself, you guys can definitely talk about money to this gentleman. He is the mentor of IIM Udaipur Incubation Center and Faster Capital. He is ex-Infi himself. Welcome Sovan Panda ji on the panel.
Thank you so much.
The next in line is Varad Rajan Krishna ji. He is the executive turned serial tech entrepreneur with 5 exits, including 2 IPOs, an angel investor and involved in the global startups movement known as the 100 Open Startups. He is the managing director of Induct AS India and Middle East North Africa itself. He is basically on a mission to empower more and more Indian startups by running global level challenges, and he is in the mission to give away. Now is the time when he is mentoring those startups as well. And guys, he has got an amazing offer for all the viewers and the startups of Kaam Ki Baat as well. So we have actually misspelled his name. Varad Rajan Krishna is the perfect man. Now, the best for the last, our moderator, Annapurna ji, the founder and CEO of Emotional Ethics and Company, the chairperson of Women Empowerment Association. Her mission 2020 is to make India understand what is emotional literacy. So whenever you are actually stuck on this point of emotional literacy, you know in India who to approach. The person is Annapurna ji. So I will now pass on the baton to our moderator. Now please take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Namaste, good evening. Welcome back, our viewers, to another great episode on Kaam Ki Baat. And today I have an excellent panel. And I thought over the week when you feel that you're very low, and as an entrepreneur, you have your highs and lows. And once you get from Gaurav, your panelists, who are going to be the panelists for the weekend, and reading about them, and understanding their profiles and all, it just pumps you up by telling, wow, I would be meeting these panelists, I'll be talking to them, and they will be teaching me so many things, I'll be learning. And that itself is a 10x power, which you will get it immediately. So welcome all the panelists, and it is our honor, and it is, I would say, it is a great pleasure to have all of you And you have done so much. I'm sure that this 1 hour is not just enough for you to discuss with you all everything and whatever you have done so thus far. I could try to see that how much ever we can get the best out of you in the next 60, 45 minutes. Okay, so the topic being importance of having a co-founder and how easy it is to find one. I mean, exactly, I'm in this state right now. I'm also trying to see whether I should have one co-founder or how is it we should figure out. And a lot of people have come across me and things like that. Great topic. So today I will make my notes to figure out what should be, who should be, how should we select, and where can we find one. So let's get on to the topic straight, and I will try to start with Sovan first. Sovan, having been a co-founder, and so who is a co-founder? One who shares a vision of ours, or he dreams like us, or he's mad after entrepreneurship. What is that kind of person who can be a co-founder? Can you throw some light on this?
It's a great question, Annapurna ji, and it's really nice. I think a lot of people are looking for this kind of answer. They want to understand who can be my co-founder, or what should be a co-founder like. So I typically give an example. I would correlate with, let's say you are driving a car and there are 4 wheels in the car. Okay, 4 wheels are there, and the car is moving in one particular direction, which is the destination, which is the goal. So every co-founder can be like the wheels of the car. So they are the wheels of the car. So the car is moving, which means the goal is there, the destination is there. Every co-founder should be having the same destination, same goal. If that is not there, obviously, your startups cannot be successful. So that is rule number 1, very, very important, that the destination has to be fixed. What it also means is that the founder who has started the company, he is having a goal, but if he is not able to align all the co-founders to that particular goal, or there is a difference in understanding, then it is definitely going to fall apart. So that is very important. Taking the same example, now, when we go for a long drive, what we do is we typically get our wheels aligned. If one of the wheel is not aligned, definitely there is a wear and tear happens either to that particular tire or some other tire. Which means if our co-founders are not aligned, definitely there is going to be an impact which is going to be created within the team, within the co-founders, and there is going to be friction. It is very clear. Third very important point, all the wheels move in the same direction. Are my co-founders ready to move in the same direction? Yes, then you will have the right co-founder. So it has to be the same direction. The next very important point is that same speed. All the 4 tires move in the same speed, which means are they dependable enough so that they are ready to move in the same speed, just like me as a co-founder is ready to move in the direction with the speed. Are all my co-founders ready to move in the same speed? And fifth very important point is that when we go for a drive, we ensure that all the tires are equally inflated. Okay. Now, do my co-founders have the same level of energy and passion? Do they have the same level of energy and passion? If that is not there, obviously things are not going to move. We are not going to go very far. Although there is a saying that, if you have to go far, go together. But then it is not just about togetherness. It is about having the same energy, same passion. That is very, very important. And the most important point which I want to make here is, let's say you are on the ride and then you happen to realize that maybe 1 or 2 tires does not have enough air, doesn't have enough pressure. The other tires still take you to the nearest petrol pump to make sure that you are filling the air, and then you can move on. So what it actually means is that there will be situations where somebody would be down, one of your co-founder will be down. Can you lift another co-founder? Are you able to support each other? It's about the collaboration. The collaboration begins in the core team. We try to look at collaboration outside. That will come later. First, we need to be having that collaboration within the co-founders. If there is no collaboration or dependability within the co-founding team, then obviously we cannot expect the collaboration to happen outside. So I gave this example so that it is very easy to relate and people will be able to relate to that. If you see all these 6 things matching, then you have got the right co-founder, and aligning them is very important. Yes, there are a lot more points which we'll discuss over the course of the discussion. But yeah, this is what it means.
Fantastic. I can visualize, as you said, I could visualize that car going there, and then the tires, then the inflation, what would happen, everything and all. Fantastic. I think you gave a great example and a very metaphorical example there, and gave a very good start to the whole of the conversation. Well, I think Ashwin, you have been a co-founder multiple times, and also, you are the chief advisory also for many of the forums. So, okay, like what Sovan says that, these are some of the things which should be there in the co-founder. Did you also feel that you had that when you were taken as a co-founder with other firms? And or are you seeing something, what kind of benefits do you see when you become a co-founder? Or how should a co-founder agree to the founder? Or what kind of things should we be on lookout when someone proposes me to become a co-founder of their firm? How is it? Can you share some of the things?
I missed your last point. I don't know why. Am I clearly audible?
I was also asking that if supposing you have a proposal from a founder by telling that could you be a co-founder in my firm?
Okay.
How is it I should evaluate from my end to,
Sure. Got it. So let me, you mentioned rightly that I have been, co-founder at various companies. I am currently, and I use the tag co-founder, even if I would be the one starting the company. That's how I do it. Everyone together becomes, so that, even if I'm the only one, then I still can call myself co-founder, because there will be someone who will always be joining, because that's the way I build my companies. And I'll give you an example. Okay, I'll give you an interesting example. So, I have been, I think it was in 2017, I had been investing in mostly tech companies. Lots of interesting companies in the space of AI, data, and that. And, being an investor, so I call myself an entrepreneur more than an investor. I like to build companies. I like to build products. I like to be hands-on. That's my, that's my way of doing things. So going through the entire process, I was like, okay, no, I need to go back to building things again, because I love doing that. At that time, somehow I met this person called Prasenjit Bhattacharya. He is the CEO of Great Place to Work India. Do you know him, Annapurna?
I have heard about him. I have heard about him.
Yeah. So I met him. It was just a casual conversation. It was supposed to happen on a Saturday morning. I think around breakfast, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. or so. And then I had some other meetings lined up for the day. So we started, at 8 a.m. in the morning, we started a conversation, started talking about a few things. And by the time I came out of that meeting, it was, I think, 8 p.m. in the night, 7 or 8 p.m., which means we kept on talking for 11 to 12 hours. And by the time I came out, it was sure that, okay, together we are going to build a company. It's for sure, because there was an alignment of vision. And so sometimes, it's not as if that you have to go looking out for things. One thing is clear. I have been an investor. I invest in companies. So I have to obviously keep on looking out for opportunities to talk to people. That is good enough. Now, this opportunity can convert into an opportunity of investment. It can convert into an opportunity of, as you mentioned, advisory. It can also convert into an opportunity of being in an executive role in a company, because this is what will excite you. So for me, when we started the conversation, there were a few things. One thing was that I could see very clearly that what he's talking about, the core vision, the main vision about the company called Great Management Institute, which is he and I are the founders in the company. And you're talking about that, and that vision alignment. So I come from the startup background. He comes from a background where there are lots of corporates which he works with, right? And despite the fact that there are different backgrounds, and everything, a lot of things about us are very different, we could see that there's a common vision, that what he talks about, the problem which he's trying to solve, is exactly the problem that I'm trying to solve. That was one thing. The second thing was that there is something which is complementary as well. So it's not just that we are two totally same person. We are very different in lots of sense. So that that also excites you. For me, it's exciting to see someone having the same vision, trying to achieve the same goal, having the same amount of, passion and maybe the principles. Some things are same. That's what you need. And the other things are basically not the same. It's different. So that there's a scope for you to bring in something. I love tech. I love AI. I love building, products which are in the space of data analytics. Now he's talking about coaching. I am thinking about AI. So now we can, we can form AI coaches. So now the Great Minds Institute also has got artificially intelligent coaches as well. Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, he is one of our brand ambassadors. His AI version is also there on our platform. So just an example. The point is that this is how it gets created. There has to be a matching of thoughts, a matching of vision, certain matching of certain principles, and there has to be something which is not matching so that you can be complementary enough to add some value to the entire thing.
Absolutely. Superb. I think you have given the 3 takeaways. I think I'm sure the viewers, if you have attended if you could have enrolled even for entrepreneurship development from any resource, also you would have not got these 3 sutras what Ashwin has given to us right now. And we're figuring out for a co-founder, or you want to become a co-founder. I think he has very nicely narrated what is it in for you. Okay. I think Varad has some issues on, connectivity, internet connectivity. We will continue, and as soon as he is able to join, I think we will take up questions. So, fantastic. I will go back again with you, Sovan. While asking when you have told what is it, who is a co-founder and things like that, I also wanted to understand from you. We use this word called partner and co-founders. So what is the difference between a partner and a co-founder? How can I distinguish that? And in the eyes of law, is there, is there something very clear differences when we have to call them as a partner or call them as a co-founder? And throw some light on this.
So partner is mainly a technical term. So if you are, let's say, forming a partnership company or a LLP, typically you would take a partner. Now, when we talk about co-founder, there is nothing legally where you say, okay, this person is a co-founder. You don't mention it anywhere. Probably you could have some documentation between 2 co-founders, founders and co-founders saying that, okay, we are working together with some stake. Now, what is most important when we talk about a co-founder is that co-founder is somebody who shares the same vision and typically taken at the beginning of the journey. So you are just starting a vision, you're starting an idea, you want to execute that, and then you want to figure out, can we figure out somebody who can work with me together? And that is when you get a co-founder, which means, again, taking the example, when we talk about the migratory birds, which fly in a V shape. Now, every bird is participating there. And I would say that every bird which is flying in that V shape is nothing but a co-founder. Every bird. Because when the bird which is in the front, is tired, goes back, and there is another bird which is taking the place. And overall, they help in increasing the productivity of the entire team. They are increasing the productivity. Now, when we talk about a partner can come anytime. Partner could be just a stakeholder. Partner may be an active partner or an inactive partner. He could just be an investor who is also called as a partner. Because he has a stake in the company, that's why he's also called as a partner. So there is a huge difference between partner and co-founder. Co-founders build the company. Partners, typically, they are the investors. They may take that active role. They may not take the active role. Okay, but there could be co-founder partner. That is important. And that makes a very important, when we look out for co-founders, some co-founder may come with an investment, and that person becomes a partner as well, and is helping in the journey of the company. So terminology wise, these are the differences, but I always believe that rather than looking for making somebody a partner, it's very important to have co-founders, people who are ready to work together and share the same vision. That's very important than figuring out who can be my partner. Partner could be anything. That could be in paper with some stake, and it may help you, it may not help you.
Super. Thank you for throwing so much of light, on that, because that is a very technical terminology as well as to understand there. Welcome back, Varad. I think we were about to, we were missing there, and we were trying to see that when soon you can be back. Okay, fine. And I would like to understand from you, when is that as an entrepreneur or as a founder, I should look out for a co-founder, and where and how should I find them? How is it I should be on an hawk's eye, or how is it I should look out for people? So they are not some common people wearing, they're all masks, I'm sure of it.
So I,
They're taking from their protection. So how can you do? And you have having a lot of experience in this area. So can you please tell us how to figure out one?
so thanks, first of all, Gaurav and team for this opportunity. Annapurna, I would like to answer this from my own experience, right? Been through this probably some 12 different journeys. 5 are notable, 5 exits, so to say, and 2 of the IPOs, one in India and the other one was in Oslo. So, and I look back at this, when I look for a co-founder, I'm just looking at that journey in the very first startup was when you realize you don't have certain strengths, certain skills. For example, I was somebody with a technical background and been in R&D and so on. So when I want to do, figure out, I don't have the skill to do marketing or sales, or, for example, to do some kind of a digital outreach and so on. So, you realize you lack certain skills or, you find certain gaps. That's when you realize, you need to look for somebody, who's dependable, and you don't want them to, be an employee per se, like, because employee means, he works for you 9 to 5 and then a commitment is not there. But if you're looking at a co-founder, he or she is also committed the way you are. And so it's a long-term game. So last journey, right, the 100 open startups, and I was also telling you about in that. So this, the last one is a very great example of that. So let me explain to you that. I was building an innovation ecosystem in India. That was way back in 2008. So that time, there was a global event that happened in Copenhagen. I was invited there and to speak. And likewise, there were also others who were invited, who are presently part of the Induct co-founding team. So there was one gentleman, Dr. Bruno Randani. He's from Sao Paulo in Brazil, and he had done his PhD in the US, and also he was working in the US in many companies. And likewise, there was Juan Ross. He was from Barcelona. And I was the only Indian there. And so what happened is the main founder, his name is Alf Martin. He's a Norwegian. And so he had come to that event also to speak. So what happened during lunch, we all got together and we were discussing, what each other is doing. And then, so the foresight of this founder, Alf Martin, he said, look, hey, we are all doing different things. Why don't we join forces? And, so you are in India, whereas Bruno is based in North America and South America, whereas this gentleman, Juan Ross, he was also a professor at Ezare Business School. He said, hey, you are in southern part of Europe, and I'm, he was based in, of course, northern part of Europe in Norway. So he said, hey, we are in different parts of the world. Why don't we come together and, make something big? So the rest is history, as I say. So this was in 2009, and he basically bought us out for kind of equity swap. And so I would say that he gave us this co-founder status, right? And I must say, we just built the company together. 7 years later, we listed it in the Oslo Stock Exchange. And now as I speak with you, we continue to build the company and now going towards NASDAQ listing, right? And so I just want to tell you that this is a typical journey, right? And when you are trying to do something and you figure out that as one person, as one individual, if you're trying to do things, there are many challenges. You can't be a CPA, for example. You can't be a techie. You can't be a marketing guy, So all rolled in one is an impossible task. And also, if you look at the startup scenario, right, you want to raise investments. If you go to, I see, I have here Sovan here. So, he will tell you, if you go and pitch as an individual entrepreneur, he'll say, hey, I'm not going to invest in you. Go find a co-founder, right? So you are kind of forced by the ecosystem also because it is too risky to depend on one person to put everything in one basket, as they say, right? It's not advisable, right? So we have this COVID situation, right? Like this, if there is some accident and the main founder is run over, what happens to the company, right? So this is one of the reasons people want to have 3-4 such co-founders ideally, and then you work together, you collaborate, and then go with the vision. So I'm just saying the hardest part is to identify that you cannot do everything on your own. And the moment you realize that, it's easy. So you are open to collaborate and also to work with others.
Superb. I think some inputs we could gather there, and surely I think we will apply them, how to find out those co-founders and things like that. Thank you so much, Varad, for highlighting all of that. So Ashwin, if supposing when we identify, because again, understanding from your this one, will the co-founder should always be there as a board of director, as a part of the board of directors, and also should we also share, should they be having the company shareholdings and things like that? So what are your views about it, and how can one go around after giving the co-founder status? How could these expectations be met, or should it be met at all?
So I think, honestly, the answer to this varies depending on situation. I do not like putting everything into single basket or single answer, because it depends on the situation. One thing which is definitely there, that if someone is a co-founder, there has to be ownership. Ownership is critical towards being a co-founder, and ownership is provided. As we understand, there are multiple ways to provide ownership, and equity is one of the most prominent ways in which ownership is provided. So according to my understanding, yes, and that's how I do things. That, for example, see, in my case, I would even, it's like people who may not really be, who may have joined initially as in some other role, but then they are, at times, and I'm not talking about ESOPs, I'm talking about, they getting elevated to the role of a co-founder, because we realize that, okay, this particular feature module is so critical to the company, and this person has founded that feature, that that person should be a co-founder and provide equity to the individual as well. Obviously, against, we have to work out how to do that, the legalities of it. But, this is something which I have believed in always. And so the answer to your question is, coming to the board of directors now, that also depends. It may not be needed at every time that every co-founder is in the board of directors. It depends on multiple factors. Investors come in, and then they've got their own set of requirements in the board. At the end of the day, one thing is needed, which is ownership. Now that ownership can be reflected through various ways, but that can be, multiple options are there to provide that. But without ownership, there is no co-founder. That's for sure.
Right. Fantastic. I think that's a bigger word, actually. When you talk about ownership, that itself carries a lot of weight, and with ownership comes everything, I think so, if they're able to take up that thing. Well, back to you, Varad, and I would like to understand, yes, because you had a fleet of co-founders in one company, and you have seen these all things, and I'm sure you would have seen a lot of dynamics in the whole thing. So most of the times we get to hear of conflicts between the founders, co-founders, various other, due to their, IPR, because you have floated companies which have gone to listing and things like that, or financials, etc. And this relationships end up very sore, someone making more buck, someone not making big buck, or someone having a very jealousy, which will creep in, like it, do not like it, somewhere it will creep in over there. And how should you be very watchful of this, and how can we have a very healthy ecosystem around this? So what are your tips, and what are your advice on that, and how can we get from there?
I will not be out of place to tell you, right? It is like choosing a bride, or, the other way around, choosing a groom, right? So it is, if it's like you're looking for somebody to work with you lifetime, going to be a partnership, it's like 100% trust you should have with each other, right? And so how are you going to find a person that you can trust? That's the hardest part, right? Because if you see, there's no way you can judge people by the looks, or, by a few conversations, right? So you should ideally, grow through. So, and you see the successes, right? If you take Google, for example, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they were PhD students, and they were classmates. So, that helped them to build this trust with each other, right? So I'm just giving you an example, like when you are contemporaries, if you are working in an organization together or peers, then you have the trust. You've been working with each other for a long time, and that's how you get to build that. You build the trust, and then you know each other, know the weakness, we know the strengths, and so on. And then it's much easier to, say, find that person as your co-founder, right? So you can actually say there are organizations, startups, we say nobody's a founder here. No, they are all co-founders. So this is one other thought, right? And they have also seen to prevent this kind of, like you said, this conflicts. You can name everybody as a founder. So, there are, I've seen people, especially outside India, there are 6 founders. And so, they call themselves as founders, not co-founders. And there's nobody named as a founder, for example. And so these are the ways, you create a level playing field for each other and say, okay, this is like a prenuptial agreement, so you may have assets before marriage, and, so when you are getting into a new, let's say, arrangement, then you say that this is what, I'm going to bring, and these kind of things that are my wealth that has been created after marrying you, then, this is something we split. So, these kind of, right, you have to get into these kind of legal agreements, because it may happen that there is someone who's got a lot more wealth or a lot more, value that he or she brings. And then the other people that are coming in are not able to put similar effort or time on this, then you're being unfair to the guy, who has created. And see, we are talking about, co-founders. I'll tell you, we have seen situations where investors come and remove the main brain behind it, because once you have done the R&D, once you have captured the IP, then they force the founder out, So I've seen this. I don't want to name this, but I don't want to name any organizations or any startup, but I've seen quite a few of them. And so this is also, as you said, you try to bring investor as a kind of a co-founder. He's on your board, and he's also a part of your journey. And, in many ways, he's also your co-founder. He's going to be strategizing. He's going to be guiding you. He's going to mentor you. Specifically, important decisions that particular person will be driving. So you're talking about, right, this IP being brought in by somebody, and then this is exactly what happened. I know a startup, that particular person had 9 patents and that particular technology area, and this company, the investor knew everything, and after doing all that, they took out all the ideas, they took out the work. After the commercialization was done, they forced this main founder out. So I'm just saying, this is kind of situations we have seen also among the co-founders, where, people come in with it kind of. So it is very difficult. So which is why, to avoid these kind of conflicts, you see, whether it's a husband-wife kind of co-founders, right? And then there's already some trust built, and then you start a company together. And then we see classmates coming together and building it. So there are many, many situations like this, maybe also colleagues, in a company, they've been working together for several years, and then they realize there's an opportunity in the marketplace, and they come together to build something. So like this, if you have a previous history of working with that individual or that group of people, then, you can surmount this kind of challenges, this kind of issues, So you don't get to, in the middle of the, I say, midstream, as when you're building the company, you don't get into these conflicts, because when you do that, you're not able to build your company, but you're dealing with internal competition, internal, what you call conflicts, instead of, handling challenges in the marketplace. So, so that is what happens. And, you bring the company down, for your selfish interests. So we see many, many such situations happening. And my own advice is to work with people that whom you have trust, and not look at, bringing somebody whom we do not know. So this is one of the best, I would say, from my own experience, right? Without naming, right? One of the experiences I had was that, and I had to walk away from that. And so, it is not that, the 12 experiences I had, not everything was smooth. I also got into one of those. Then I became wiser to work with people that I know. So I'm just saying, to avoid that, I'm advising, the people who are watching to avoid such situations. Look for people that you know and you have trust, and come with references. If you don't have, like I said, these kind of arrangements, or this kind of previous knowledge about the person or the co-founder you're looking for, at least look for references. References from people that you can trust. So I've seen also sometimes, investors play a role of finding co-founders. And many times, right, there are many situations where you meet people at an event or a common, let's say you go to an event where people are there. Like I mentioned to you, how I got to Copenhagen and met my co-founders. So this is the same situation that can happen. Then you know that the person is of certain expertise or certain knowledge. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been invited there. So likewise, use some kind of filtering process, to identify the right kind of people in the absence of other ones that I said, like, whether it's a classmate, whether it's your peer, or whether it's your own spouse. If you don't have that, look at these other options to identify the co-founder.
Thank you so much, because you laid a very important thing that if you wanted to have a co-founder, trust is a very important factor there to figure out this one. So Sovan, over to you. To many of the founders, what they would do is, this becomes, and many businesses we have seen, especially in India, we have seen this hereditary process going on. Papa ne kuch kiya, then it goes off as a hereditary. The company goes away to the hands of the son or the daughter, and they become automatically co-founder and things like that. So what is your take on that? Just because they have their own vicious interest by telling that you have to protect the venture, it not go away to someone else's hands. So is this a right approach, or while doing the company, founder would have done it with a dream to make it big, to make it very this one and things like that, done everything very fantastic. But should their hires take off just like that? And is it good for the organization? Because by then it would have been a big empire by themselves and they would have done it. So what's your call on that, and how do you really suggest advice on that?
So typically this kind of situation typically happens when it is a single person run companies. Typically, if there are more people coming together and building the organization, typically these kind of things will not happen. When it is a single man who is building the company, he's saying that this is my legacy. Now I want to give it to my next generation and let him or her take care of the entire business and run the business. So that's very, very typical. But what's more important here, when we are talking about protecting the company or saving the business, and if that is the reason why we are doing this, it's very important for the person who is taking over the business, whether it is son or daughter or whoever in the family member is, that person has to be capable and build that capability for that person. It's very, very important, because suddenly we are giving a big empire to somebody who has never handled it. So it is somebody who has not done it. Now, if I take example of Wipro, now Jim Premji, this is a typical example there. And his son, Rishabh, he was not given the position right from day one. In fact, there is an education system which was built within the organization. And I believe his son worked on every single department for a period of maybe 1 to 2 years to understand the entire ecosystem, developing that capability so that now he can handle the empire. That's the key here. If you want to protect the company, first we have to make the person whom we are offering the business, we have to make them capable, and then it is possible. Otherwise, we have seen a lot of companies, we can't take examples here, but a lot of companies which has gone down just after it has been given to the next generation. So if you follow the right process, and of course there has to be alignment, because as a owner of the company, the person thinks that, I can give it to my family members, but that person is not ready. He doesn't want to take it. He doesn't want to do it. It cannot be a push to them. In those situations, we have to look for the right person who can handle the business.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I think that is a big takeaway for many people who are viewing, because don't just blindly go and tell that everything is everything comes because whatever is parents hereditary, everything properties are moved just like that. I think we should be with a very cautionary and a great example of it. So of course, yes, in front of our eyes, how this transition has happened. Yes, very true. Thank you so much on giving that insight for us.
And Annapurna, I would like to also
Sure.
add to
Please.
what you heard from Sovan is that we see many companies like this, right? That is what you call SMEs. They don't have, say, a here or a person to continue. And so they, for example, may not be that the daughter or son is interested in the business. So then the founder is forced to sell it. And so this is another situation which happens. It is they don't have, let us say, a professional management or a professional manager to take over. Then you reach a situation where you're forced to sell it. And so we see these kind of situations happening all the time. And which is reason, you should have this co-founder kind of an arrangement when such a situation happens to either of the co-founders. You're open to bring professional managers. So this is an interesting study we found that, the more number of co-founders you have in the organization, you're more open to bring professional managers. So on the other hand, if you are like let's say somebody with a proprietary kind of an approach, you are not open to that. And so then your ego or your business is much more than, the professional management or running the company. So if there's no continuity, he or she is forced to sell it. And so that's what happens many times.
Super. Great thought over there. But I will just little bit bring controversy with Ashwin by telling that should we build and sustain our business can we do it without a co-founder? What is your why should we at all have a co-founder? I know there are merits. There have been interesting points which have come out when Varad telling that what are the benefits of having it? Why should we not give it to our legal hire? Just like that, if they're not competent enough and things like that. But what is it? Have you come across organizations which do not have at all co-founders? And what if we do not have a co-founder? How is it? Can we sustain? Can we really go ahead? You're on mute, Ashwin. Can you unmute?
There are definitely organizations which do not have co-founders per se. There's a main co-founder and everyone else may have very less equity in the company, and that's how they have built it. Whether it's good or bad, let me again tell you a small story. Okay, my story only. So, when I started, one of my first companies got acquired later. That was during my college days. It was my fifth year in the college. Okay, and that time, I have always believed that I should be the only person running things. I have that approach, which is not correct, but you get that sometimes that you want to be in control of everything around you. And with that approach, I began the company. That was in initial days. Obviously, after that, I've learned a lot about how things are done and how management is done. And the company started doing good. I started feeling more confident about what I am, and how I can do good things. And then that increased more and more. That okay, I'm building a great company. It expanded to different countries. I'm expanding globally, and everywhere it's only me. If you look at the media at that time, everywhere it was only Ashwin Srivastava being talked about everywhere. It was great feeling also, and I felt things are going great. But now you mentioned something about sustainability. That you're building something, there will be a time where you will reach, then you will realize, okay, maybe you are not good enough here, right? And then you start doing delegation. But again, delegation without ownership becomes very tough to actually take ahead things. So obviously the company reached a situation where I had built something great, but I had failed to build another line of leaders. And it was not there in my mind until there was an accident which happened with me. It was a physical accident, and I was in hospital for more than 6 months. In those 6 months, I had to sell the company. Just because it was a sudden major accident. From the day of the accident, I went out of work completely because it was a major one. I had to be admitted to the hospital. I remained there for 6-7 months, and there was no other option. Suddenly, the numbers started going down. I don't know what happened. Then I realized, oh my God, what have I done? I have not really built a company. I have built something which is centered around me so much that actually it's not even a company. Right. And then I realized it's so dangerous, but somehow thankfully now later people call, okay, I got my first exit and all, but the reality remains that I had to sell it because there was no other option. I was seeing it going down and I got some good offer. I had to sell it. So, this happens. So it means a sustainable company, it's not very easy to build a sustainable company, a long-term company without having people around you. And you should be aware that, there are lots of limitations in you as an individual and you need people with you to be able to work with you and take the entire company forward. Otherwise, you're not running a company. It's as simple as that.
Superb. I think that example itself is millions worth, how you have told and what has happened with you. Thank you for sharing that personal experience and giving us insight over there, Ashwin. We are from the startup capital of India, and every half an hour we see so many things happening, so many youngsters coming, school people coming up and students telling that I have a great, brilliant idea. I want to start a venture. Then colleges, we have all these incubation centers. So there are a lot of colleges. And now with this pandemic, I'm seeing that everyone wants to get on. And they feel that, yes, this is the right opportunity. Some others feel that there is no opportunity for me in the job. So let me start off something on my own. So having seen all of this, and the mindset, telling that if I have to sustain longer, so I have to get a co-founder. And is it actually a co-founder or co-founder masked with an investor? So how is it these two things come up with us? Because I saw many youngsters, they're from college grads, they do brilliant, they do a lot of application development, techies they do brilliant things. Over a period of time, in their 20s, early 20s, they do a brilliant job, they're doing everything. But after that, they're stuck. They're just stuck because they're not looking for co-founder, they're looking for an investor. And, how is it that investor should be treated as an investor and kept aloof? Invest, I will partner with you by equities, or should I also make him a co-founder? How is it? This dilemma is there in many of the heads, what should I do really, and how can I build my organization keeping a track of co-founders and investors? Or should I, actually mix all of this? I would like to listen from you.
Yeah.
So this is addressed to Sovan, right?
Varad.
Oh, okay.
Varad.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
No problem. But let us listen.
Thanks. So I was about to tell you one thing which is very interesting we're seeing in the Indian marketplace specifically. The last few years has been a super growth for, the startups and the ecosystem. And we are seeing another situation. This is something I was doing a survey with my partner in Silicon Valley. So it was very interesting was we were interviewing the so-called mentors. So many startups have mentors today, right? So we found something very interesting was many mentors come and say that they would like to, be a part of it. And then they say, we want a sweat equity, etc. And then slowly, it's like, as they say, right, it's the old story of Arab and the camel. So the camel first asks for the nose and then says, the whole body inside. So we've seen a situation where the kind of mentors, right, they miss the chance of being an entrepreneur. So what they do is masquerade as a, co-founder and then take the control. I've seen this many times. And the entrepreneurs being very naive, right? It's very young people. So they do not know about these things. They're very naive. And these people are exploiting it. And so they come in to start with as a mentor, but then, they have other ideas. And so this is the other problem, right? So you were talking about investors. I'm saying much bigger problem is with mentors. So many mentors, right? This is a much bigger problem. Now, then what happens is when you're going for the next round and all that, you have to also deal with, these kind of people, why they came in, etc. When you have to answer very uncomfortable questions to, looking at the cap table and all that, right? Because they came in for some other reason. So that's another point, maybe for another discussion. But your question was specifically about investors coming in. Yes, I have seen this many times, right? I will tell you a very interesting situation, which is again, another of my companies that I invested way back in 2005. I invested and I'm also a co-founder in that. So this was exactly the situation that you talked about. So I was the earliest investor, the first investor in the company, and I like that. I like the tech, and I became the investor, and I became a co-founder as well because I bought certain skills which the founder didn't have. And so just to tell you, this company today is the highest funded IoT startup in India, and it's valued at around $400 million US. So after it came in with my network, I was able to bring investments to the tune of immediately, within a year, $2 million US in 2005. That was a lot of money. So I'm just saying that not all the time that an investor comes in for, let's say, other reasons. There are also good reasons. Like I gave you the example of investor coming in. We call this as a value-added investor or interested investor. So you bring an investor like that, he or she is going to really add value. So it all depends on you as an entrepreneur has to do these checks, and you have the right to decide whom you want to bring in as a stakeholder in your company. Like whether it's going to be a shareholder or as a co-founder or even an investor, you as a founder have the right to do that. And so my suggestion to the upcoming entrepreneurs is that do that check and do some due diligence on the investor as well. What are their attitude? What are their approaches and why? What are the strategies and so on? So you need to do a little bit more deep background checks on these people before you invite them, as an investor, because we hear of all kinds of stories, right? So you don't want to get into that kind of a situation later where they take over your company. And these kind of situations have happened as well. And they bring in other co-founders because they have the, let's say, higher power or higher equity. Then they take over the control of the company. Then you as a founder will lose everything and you will probably end up with single-digit equity with no control whatsoever, which was your original idea in the first place. So my suggestion would be then to look for all these signals from the word get-go and be very careful about bringing in somebody like that, because otherwise it would be a Arab in the camel story.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that insight. I'm sure the viewers who are seeing, first of all, for me, it is a great learning as to what I should do. And I'm sure there are many people like me who would be listening to all of you. And Gaurav, see that this episode should be put on every media and just become like one kind of knowledge sharing so that people don't enter into some type of decisions where they repent a lot after doing everything. Thank you so much. And Gaurav, all the questions, anything which we wanted to now take up before we go for the Kaam Ki Baat?
Yes. So the first question that has come in is, does an investor also look at a non-tech or a traditional business? Because there is so much of thing that everyone is talking about tech. So as an investor, will you also look at a traditional business?
Well, it all depends. It all depends on whether you can scale, right? When an investor comes, you have to also realize the motive behind it, right? He or she wants to multiply, right? We all know this. There's no great rocket science behind it, right? So if you put X, you want 10X. So if there's a potential, whatever that business is, to multiply, then the investor would be interested to put money in it. But having said that, there are businesses, like you said, traditional businesses, which doesn't have that kind of a traditional, let's see, if you look at the background or history, they don't have that kind of a growth that you have in tech industry. So that is one of the reasons you don't find, for example, the professional VCs or professional investors putting money into that kind of companies. You know the reason, right? That's why. So that is my answer to you, that as long as there's a potential, as long as you can make a tech enable that, maybe introduce some tech into it and make it, something that you can multiply the money with, then I think it's a viable business.
Yes, Gaurav.
Okay. So the next question that has come in is, how important is a revenue generating balance sheet post-COVID?
Yeah, I think Ashwin should be the, yeah, I think both Ashwin and Sovan can.
So revenue generating post-COVID is not just post-COVID, it is pre-COVID also. we have to understand this is because what happens is most of the startup founders, they become very desperate. They become desperate to find investor, but they don't become desperate to find customers. So what's most important is to go and find your customers, go paying customers, and revenue generation, whatever said and done. You are doing a startup or a business so that you can generate profit and impact a lot of people, create significance in the society. And that's the key. And how can you do that if you're not generating revenue? So whether it is pre-COVID or post-COVID, whatever the situation, if your current business is not able to generate revenue because of the COVID scenario, we can pivot. We can discuss within the co-founding team and figure out what are the possible solutions which are there. But revenue generation is the number one priority for every business, every startup.
So, I'll add Gaurav here. People get too stuck into, revenue generating post-COVID, or, is traction the most important thing for valuation today, which was like 2, 3, 4 years ago, people were talking about that. Is GMV, is profit? All these questions, I don't know why people get stuck into these pointers. At the end of the day, there's only one thing, whether it be investor or anyone, everyone is looking at ROI. Everyone is looking at return. Everyone is looking at something which is scalable, gives money in the long run. I mean, or whatever the mandate is. So, we should not get stuck into, trying to, and I've seen this a lot, companies trying to fit into what they think is the ideal, thing for that time. For example, 3 to 4 years ago, everyone came with GMV. Then, we'll talk only about that, or maybe 5 years ago. And then we got an entirely opposite spectrum of it. People coming with showing that, okay, I have reached profit. That was not even profit. It was like, okay, something they have done and they're showing it as profit. Even the unit economics part was played to a level which was not correct. That also happened a lot. Because just because, investors started talking the word unit economics in every forum, and then suddenly all the pitch decks were around unit economics. So this is all stupidity at the end of the day. They should not go by these terms and these values. Business remains the same always. It is supposed to make money. That's it, right? So,
absolutely.
Okay. The next question is, I'll actually wrap it up at this question itself. So this person is owning a proprietorship. So he has heard from multiple investors, only private limited company can raise money. How true is that?
So if we talk about, let's understand the reasons behind that. When we talk about proprietorship, it is a single person who is running the business, and all the data is privately held by that individual. It is not in the public domain. You can come up with any balance sheet which you prefer. There is no checks and balances which are there. The MCA does not get involved so much. Your filing or your track record, everything is controlled only by you if you are an owner of a proprietorship. Now, what we are talking about here is a trust building. When we talk about a private limited organization, it only means that, the law says that you have to adhere to certain guidelines. And based on that, you have to follow your certain rules and regulations, and that brings trust to the investors. It's about that. If you are able to establish that trust, there are companies which are on proprietorship which has got converted into an LLP or a private limited at some point of time, and investors have put money. How transparent you are to showcase your balance sheet, that's important.
Right. Super. Gaurav, I think you're done with your questions.
So I'll send the next lot of questions to you guys separately so that we do not kill more time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There are a whole bunch of queries. Yeah.
Yes, we are dot at 8 o'clock. So I just wanted our panelists to give one Kaam ki baat for our viewers. Just one word, So over to you, Sovan. What is that one word which you would really tell our viewers at this point of time, and which is a Kaam ki baat?
Okay. So this is my favorite, which I say that success is a decision.
Okay. How do I take it? Because it's a phrase. I just wanted only one word.
Okay. You are talking about one, never give up.
Never give up. Okay. Fantastic. Ashwin?
So one word which I believe in the most, and I believe if that word is there, everything gets solved. Everything gets solved according to me. That is trust.
Trust. Okay, great. And Varad, what could be your one word which?
So I'm actually standing for, what I built, right? So collaborate. My
Wow.
my point is always collaborate, because see, if you collaborate, all your challenges you can overcome, and you can find the stakeholders, and so our tagline is collaborate to co-create the future. So that sums up everything.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much. I think when we started the season, we used to get these words, one word, resilience and all. But still that whole thing, I think if we are on the sixth episode, still somewhere or the other, one of the panelists will be telling that never give up, resilience, things like that and all. I think that has been somewhere that message is very clear. They're telling that whatever may be, whatever conditions we are, so I think we never giving not up, or never giving up something which is something very closer, and that will only show the success. So that is what we will pull us out of whatever situations we are. Fantastic. So never give up, having trust, collaborate. These are three fantastic words which we have for our viewers. Thank you so much for joining, and all the viewers, thank you for being with us consistently for the last 6 weeks. And I'm sure you are loving us, and we will be back very soon. Gaurav is planning very huge things there. And thank you for all the panelists being over here, and we have a wonderful time, like every time. Thank you, and Shubhratri. Good night.
Thank you, my wonderful viewers and the extended family, the panelists who have taken out their time on a Saturday evening. It was a wonderful session, and I will ensure that this particular episode reaches all the startups through all the incubation centers, accelerators, etc. Because trust me, this 1 hour for me as an owner as well, I made too many notes, because coming directly from you guys, from people who have actually lived their life of an investor, of an entrepreneur per se, it was truly an encyclopedia of a session. Thank you again. Thank you, my viewers. Thank you for staying with us through Kaam Ki Baat season 1. And I can ensure you we will be back on the season 2, and we are planning to get another set of wonderful panelists, and also some of them we are trying to collate the one Kaam Ki Baat and release some small videos for all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you again. Bye. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks.
Thank you, Gaurav. I think you have taken a great step over this. I think 6 weeks back, we were talking one night discussion. I think we floated out this. So thank you for that initiative also.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're doing an amazing work. From on behalf of all the panelists, I would like to say, you are talking about Kaam Ki Baat. You are doing some phenomenal job, I must say, for the cause of the entrepreneurs. Thank you so much on behalf of all the entrepreneurs watching.